Hi, and welcome to another episode of Navigating with Lisa and the Silversea Passengers. This episode of Navigating with Lisa is going to discuss the sometimes polarizing topic of tipping on board a Silversea cruise. As frequently mentioned in our Facebook group, all the fares on Silversea are all-inclusive, which does include tips, but tipping practices are different all around the world. Where I live in the United States, tipping is expected, it is very common. Frequently it is factored into the salaries that some service staff make. So it is very, very customary in my culture. So I did just want to do an episode of Navigating with Lisa to give us some kind of basic guidelines on tipping if you choose to do it. This is all a matter of personal choice because tips are included with your standard fare on Silversea. Here are some rules of thumb on tipping and standard amounts. If you want to do an extra tip for crew members of your choice, tips are usually recommended to be done in US dollars or euros. So the standard tip amount for a butler would be $5 per day that you're on board. Tipping your suite attendant is also very common in addition to tipping your butler, and we would recommend an amount of $3 a day for your suite attendant. So on a 10-day itinerary, a $30 tip. The rule of thumb for giving an extra tip at the end of your trip for other team members on board, other crew members who have just gone out of their way and been spectacular for you, can really vary. In those cases, I would say the amount would really rely on the level of service you earned, or just whatever they did that made them so remarkable and special for you. But keeping in mind that $3 a day or $5 a day guideline, and something that I think is frequently forgotten because tips are included on the Silversea cruises. The notable exception for tipping is with your tour guides and your excursion guides. Tips for the excursion guides are not included in the price of your fare. That is always an additional cost. And in those cases, tips should work however the local customs are. In some places, again, like the United States where I live, tipping is very, very custom and often expected. In other parts of the world, that is not the case at all. And in sometimes excessive tipping could be deemed as harmful. So you just really need to follow the customs. And a good rule of thumb for tipping of tour guides would be for a half-a-day excursion. For a couple, it would be $10. So $5 per person per half-day excursion. So if it's a full-day excursion and there's two of you, it would be a $20 tip. I would also like to point out that gratuity, if you visit the spa, a gratuity for the spa is already included in the price of your treatment. There are other ways that you can participate and support crew members outside of tipping. Using your survey and keeping track of crew members who gave you excellent service, who you just had a remarkable relationship with, is super beneficial. I've seen it happen myself. Cruise members that I have previously gave stellar remarks to have been promoted. It really helps them in their own promotion and career advancement. So definitely using the surveys and naming crew members is a great way to go. There's also the crew welfare fund that you can donate to on board. A standard donation to that for a cruise would be maybe $50 to $100. The crew welfare fund, just to clarify what it is, it doesn't go to any one person, but it has the potential to benefit all crew, including those in the laundry, bakery, tender operations, etc. Things like paying for special events, excursions, parties, etc. So it's a great way to support the entire crew of the ship and give them a little perk and bonus. We often also get questions about tipping for a black lane driver. If you have a door-to-door booked with black lane service, again, gratuities are included, and this is just, again, personal preference. If you thought your chauffeur did something above and beyond, or you just really appreciate tipping your driver, you're welcome to, but it is a personal choice. And that's what a lot of this tipping conversation comes back to, is it is a personal choice. But if you want to do something above and beyond, and for someone who has gone above and and beyond. These are just some basic guidelines to help you understand what might and might not be appropriate or what you'd want to consider doing. The guiding principle for tipping around the world is that travelers should always adapt to their current location, not what you do at home. So what's customary in your home environment is not necessarily what works in other places around the world, and it's definitely very, very helpful to bear in mind where you are in the world and what their customs are when it comes to things like tipping. As with every Navigating with Lisa episode, there is a lot more information you can find in the FAQ files on silverseapassengers.com. There's a great file that I got a lot of my information from called Tipping on Silversea. My favorite one, though, is Tipping Imports, and here's why. There is an excellent graphic provided. I'm going to save it to my phone for future travels, and it gives an expectation of tipping restaurant staff in every country. And again, as I was saying, since tipping, we should operate on the customs of whatever country we're visiting. This gives you a really great baseline of understanding how much tipping is going to be expected in whatever country you're visiting. Again, it always is a hot button topic on the Silversea Passengers Facebook group, but and a lot of that just comes from the fact that we all live in different cultures all around the world with different customs, and it is a bit added in complexity to the fact that tips are included in the price of your fare. I like to take that as putting my mind at ease. The tips are covered. If I forget or I spent my last dollar somewhere else, I do have that peace of mind of knowing I'm not harming. Tips are included, but I too like to have a baseline. I live in a culture where tips are very customary, so having that baseline number of what might be expected for a butler or suite attendant for the service that they provide, or a bar staff, a restaurant server who's just gone out of their way for you. Every tip is always appreciated in those cases. They are certainly not required. It is absolutely your personal choice about what you choose to do and what your preference is. So I hope that helped clarify a little bit on tipping and some basic tipping guidelines on your Silversea cruises. I think the big takeaway is it is your choice, and hopefully that gives you a good starting point if you do choose to tip your the crew members on board, and especially the excursion staff. Remember, the excursion staff are not included in the all tips included, so they're definitely ones, if you're going to have some money set aside for tips, I would definitely bear those in mind. So whatever you opt to do with your tipping on board or not, here's to your next wonderful Silversea holiday. Cheers.